Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Rebel News Daily Roundup. I bet you were expecting David Menzies, but newsflash, I'm not David Menzies. I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid filling in for David Menzies, and my co-host today is my friend and colleague, Drea Humphrey, whom I had the pleasure of seeing just last week in Whistler at a screening of Church Under Fire. Drea, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going really good, and it was great to see you in person. I think sometimes in BC, I don't get to catch up with the coworkers as much, so that was great. And hopefully, everybody's ready for a really juicy show today.
Yeah, it's a real packed pierogi, as David Menzies might say. Um, so we'll get right to it. I'm going to see how much we can get to today, since I don't have David slowing me down with pop culture and anecdotes. We'll just breeze right through it. So this is Rebel News Daily Roundup. It's normally hosted, as I said, by my friend, whom I poke fun at, but it's always in good nature, my friend David Menzies. And it's where we talk about the news of the day, completely unscripted. So we'll show some video clips, you'll get some reaction from us, and hopefully we'll get some reaction from you, because we are streaming on YouTube, so there is often a vigorous chat thread happening there in the live chat. But if you'd like to support the work that we do completely willingly, out of the goodness of your own heart, instead of the mandate of this state, might I consider moving over to a platform where we are monetized, because YouTube demonetized us for being just a little bit too truthful during the times of COVID. So we are monetized over on Rumble and on Odyssey. On Rumble, you can leave us something called a Rumble rant. On Odyssey, it's called a hyper chat, and that gives you your say. It takes the show in your own direction. I like to leave the chats until the end of the show, but I know Drea has a different recipe for how she likes to bake the cake of the daily roundup. She likes to read them as they come in, so we'll let her do that because she's been kind enough to co-host with me today. And if your comment is over $5 US, usually that's when we read it on air. But don't let that stop you, because, for example, yesterday I was hosting with David. We read some $1 chats, we read some free chats. So there's always an incentive to get involved in the show. So I think that's it. Drea, I'll let you start with this really, really incredible thing that happened yesterday in a press conference with Pierre Poilievre. I've watched this like 20 times. It's just so perfect.
I did too, and I was grinning ear to ear. David and I had some fun, just talking about how the mainstream media has totally been slamming Pierre, or trying to, with this smear campaign, that they all had almost the same title going around, saying that he is basically peddling mainstream, in other words, what most people think, but mainstream conspiracy theories regarding the WEF. So he just takes a journalist to town here. Let's watch the video.
Hello, Mr. Poilievre. A number of your own comments and actions have been characterized as dog whistling to the far right.
By who?
By a number of different. But I think it's been characterized by that way. But are you trying to court? Are you trying to court the far right?
Sorry, I just need to clarify. By who?
By a number of different experts and a number of different people who work in this. Okay, well, I think it's been established that this is a concern. Are you trying to court the far right vote?
Who are these experts? You say that there are experts who are saying this. Who are they?
My question is, are you trying to court the far right vote?
I'm sorry. Your question seems to be based on a false premise. You can't even tell me who these experts are. It sounds like it's just a CBC smear job. Thank you.
But what about the question about whether that's
the answer is that
intention?
I have a common sense agenda to axe the carbon tax, bring home powerful paychecks, clear the way to build affordable homes, to put people in housing that they can afford. That is a common sense, mainstream Canadian agenda. And I know that Justin Trudeau's supporters are so desperate to distract from that because his political career is falling apart. So we're seeing an attempt here to distract and protect Justin Trudeau from his extremely unpopular carbon taxes and other failing policies. But we won't let him or his or others distract from that reality. So thank you.
So you're not going to answer that question?
That was beautiful. And you know what the funny thing is? You can literally find an expert to say anything, but they couldn't find an expert to say that what you're saying is dog whistling to the far right. Like what? That a bunch of billionaires at the World Economic Forum are trying to control the world? The billionaires at the World Economic Forum will tell you that. They wrote a book about it called The Great Reset. And it's not a conspiracy theory, but you can get an expert to say that climate change is making kids fat. I've literally seen that. Or that climate change is the reason for everybody just having all these cardiac events 2 years after an untested vaccine was sort of plunked into the market. And anyways, I probably just got us kicked
we're on
off
dangerous
of YouTube by
water
saying
now.
that. I'm treading water with sharks when I say stuff like that. But like, you can get an expert to say that no, that's climate change causing all the heart attacks, and it's climate change making kids fat, and it's climate change making kids depressed, and not the standard American diet wreaking havoc on their hormones and their psyche. You can get an expert to say literally anything if you dangle enough dough in front of them. And even they couldn't find an expert to say what they were accusing Pierre Poilievre of doing. And, like, she should have just said, it's me, I'm the expert, I see things.
Exactly.
Because we all know that. We all know that, right?
I love what Menzies said about it when we laughed about the same thing. He said, it was probably some janitor and said, whispering something in passing. But they're not even putting the experts. And what's really sad and concerning here is that this journalist is just parroting this horrible, rhetoric that's been going on through the propaganda. And she doesn't even know who the experts are as well. And like, when you're going to go up against, well, it shouldn't be going up against, it should just be asking a question, but it seems as though it's going up against someone like Pierre Poilievre, who we've seen many times, destroy Prime Minister Trudeau over and over. You better know what you're talking about and what you're referring to. And in the article, it wasn't just that they just claimed experts, and you're right, absolutely, you can find an expert to say anything without backing that up. They also said that he is spreading debunked conspiracy theories without providing any evidence of what exactly they mean. How was it debunked? And so it's just such poor journalism all around. And I think at this point, not only do they have the stake in the game for, just trying to be heard, trying to survive, they have an issue with Pierre Poilievre because he gets the biggest cheers when he says he's going to defund them. So they are desperate. It looks like it. So desperate that they're not even practicing journalism at this point to smear him.
I was at the Democracy Fund Student Journalism Conference over the weekend. Some of the brightest young minds in up-and-coming independent journalism were there. And we had Rodney Palmer speak, and he's great, former journalist, worked inside the belly of the beast at CBC, and he spoke at the National Citizens Inquiry, the NCI, about just the absolute gall of the mainstream media to pretend they're unbiased on many things. And look, I don't believe that anybody is unbiased. We all have a specific lens through which we look at the world. I don't want to force you to pay for it using the hammer of the state. If you like what I have to say, throw a few bucks the rebels' way. If you don't, great, that's okay. A lot of my content is free. But I think that free citizens should not be forced to pay for propaganda as they are with the CBC. And I also think that for CBC to present themselves as unbiased is just so dishonest. And it's an insult to their readers and viewers, the few that are left. I always lead with my chin. If I'm talking about pro-life issues, pro-family issues, I tell you exactly where I'm coming from. So that you know the lens through which I'm talking about these issues. I don't hide that I'm a conservative. I wear it on my sleeve and sometimes on my t-shirt. And Rodney, I learned a lot from him, and I like to think that I might be a bit of a veteran journalist at this point. And I learned a lot from Rodney when he said, when they make a claim in a story, stop and ask yourself, says who? Yeah. And I was like, yes, what a great tip to keep in your mind when you're reading these experts say. Okay, well, who's the expert? Now let's drill down on that expert. The expert says, and then they quote the Anti-Hate Network, and you're like, oh, so the Anti-Hate Network says that Pierre Poilievre is dog whistling to the left. Who funds the Anti-Hate Network? Oh, Justin Trudeau? oh, okay, so that's the circle that we just closed the loop on that circle there. So Justin Trudeau funds, an organization to run smear jobs on his, on his political enemies, and Canadian taxpayers have to pay for it. Now, I'm just making up a situation here where they might have found an expert. They didn't even go that far in these articles. They didn't even get that far. They could have got someone to say it. They just didn't even bother to try.
And it wasn't just CBC, it was CTV, it was Global, it was all of them doing the same thing. And that question is so good, says who, but it doesn't just apply to news anymore. We are losing questioning in general. We see it in schools, critical thinking is gone. People need to question who's behind this and whatnot. And what you mentioned about everybody having a bias, what I love about being a journalist for Rebel News is we tell people straight up, we bring you the other side of the story that the mainstream media is ignoring, right? So we are basically filling in the gaps for the people. We tell you right away, but we still practice good journalism when doing so. When we show you the other side of the story, we also show you the side that's going around. We make sure you're aware of it. So number one, you know what we're talking about, which is what's not happening here. People don't know exactly what they're talking about. If they did show the other side here, they would show Kraus Schwab saying, how he's penetrated, such a gross way to say it, our own planet, and how, happy he is of our prime minister, and to have some, billionaire or whatever, how much money, I think he's just an entrepreneur. I say that about your prime minister and your federal cabinet. That's evidence enough. This is not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. That's the thing. This is a thing that normal people talk about. It's hanging out there right in the public view if you wanted to see it. Just because you want people to shut up about it by calling them conspiracy theorists doesn't mean that they are. They're not alt-right lunatics when all you have to do is listen to these people. And that's why Pierre Poilievre is probably going to be a very successful conservative leader, and Jason Kenney is a failed one, because if you were critical of things that he said, well, then he just labels you alt-right media, whatever that is. By the way, is he accusing us, this Jewish owned and operated, and you? I think we're a very diverse newsroom. They tell me the right is misogynist, but women run the newsroom over at Rebel News between myself and Tamara. Efron Monsanto, very ethnic sounding name. He's our head of video. And then we've got Eitan. He's Jewish. Ezra, he's our ops manager. Ezra's Jewish. He owns the place. I think we're a pretty diverse newsroom.
Oh, you forgot our Muslim coworkers. I mean, we could go on and on.
Oh yeah, we could go on and on. And we're not all Christian. We're not even all the same denomination. We've got Catholics. We've got evangelicals. We've got Protestants. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah,
and
we've got
atheists.
Atheists too, who just believe in being left alone. Alex Dollywall, our news writer at Calgary, he's a nice Muslim guy. He's got a really nice little Muslim wife. I mean, we all just get. We all just get along because we all believe
we want to be
freedom,
left alone. That's all we want.
Freedom in being left alone. And I think other newsrooms would dream of being as diverse as we are. I think Ezra Levant, if he ran a independent news on the left side of the spectrum, he would be given all sorts of awards for his feminism. Yeah.
We covered how the CBC at the top, it was all rich white men, right? So
yeah, and then Catherine Tate, the American who commutes across the border to run the network that's necessary for Canadian content. But if Ezra were on the left, he would be getting awards for his feminism, for his uplifting of female journalists, and his staunch defense of us being allowed to do our jobs in the workplace without threat of violence, which is something we experience all the time. Yeah, but he's not, so we're not. But apparently, according to Jason Kenney, Alberta's failed premier, who couldn't even finish out one term, we are, I think he's referring to us because we were his loudest, staunchest critics, alt-right media. And it was alt-right media that led to his downfall. Let's play this because you should never have opened your mouth, Jason Kenney. You should have just faded into obscurity, doing whatever you're doing now.
Exactly.
And I think I've been credited through 25 years in elected life, 30 years in public life for being a pretty good communicator, fairly persuasive, but I found it almost impossible to persuade or even speak to some segments of the population in COVID. Mm-hmm. You know, there were, and I know this is a nonpartisan series, but I'll break this down into more political terms, which is to say there are large segments of the population that have broadly come to distrust mainstream legacy media outlets. And I think mainstream legacy media are partly have some responsibility for this.
Okay, he's right.
Sure. And so what's happened is you've had the rise of alternative media, both on the left and the right. And often their business model is the monetization of anger. So I found during COVID that if I stood up at a news conference and said, folks, we're going to have to bring in some really difficult and painful restrictions because we're running out of hospital beds. And we need to make sure that if you get into a car accident or if a loved one has a heart attack, that there's a bed for them. So we're going to have to slow a viral spread in order to preserve emergency, critical healthcare capacity. So if I went out and said that, a lot of people would hear it. They may not like it, but they would understand at least what the motive was and it was necessary. We might quibble about the policy, might quibble about the healthcare system, but they would understand what we were trying to do and why. But I found in COVID, there was a whole segment of the population that had opted out of mainstream institutional legacy media who were only, in one case, listening to alt-right media and who just kept seeing stories about nurses doing TikTok dances in empty hospitals and that COVID was fake or massively exaggerated. So those folks never heard what I had to say.
No, we heard.
And so they thought that these restrictions were done completely arbitrarily.
They were.
For malicious reasons.
They were.
So, that's an extreme example, but it's one that certainly worries me.
Wow.
Okay. It was not me that made him lie about vaccine passports.
Exactly.
To claim he didn't know what they were and we would never have them and they would violate your privacy and your freedom. It wasn't me that made him lie about that. He lied and the people could not abide it. It wasn't me that made his government go around arresting pastors in the street like they're El Chapo.
Yeah.
He did that. All we did was report on it. It wasn't me that made him go to the top of scandal-plagued Sky Palace and have a drunken whiskey party with senior cabinet ministers.
Oh my gosh.
I
forgot.
I didn't do that. He did it. All we did was report on it. While the protesters underneath Sky Palace were facing arrest for gathering at the hands of the sheriffs and the EPS, he was up on Sky Palace overlooking them with senior cabinet ministers, including Tyler Shandro, who lost his seat because, I think, in part because of this photo. Even though Daniel Smith tried valiantly to save him by giving him a very red meat portfolio for Alberta Conservatives. Take the gun file. She tried to save him. Yeah. She couldn't even do it because there's too much stigma attached. We didn't do that. All we did was report on it. The public thought he was a liar on both the left and the right. And instead of having time to do some introspection, he can't even figure out why we elected a freedom-minded conservative woman who had been out of politics and who had in fact betrayed us once. We were willing to forgive that over what Jason Kenney did. The first thing she did was apologize for everything Jason Kenney had done to us. She had played no part in that, but she knew that that was a thing that we needed to hear to heal us. We forgave a betrayal that led to the NDP from her because she was not Jason Kenney. What does that say about Jason Kenney?
You worded it all so perfectly. He is the sorest loser I think I've ever seen. I don't know what cave he's been living in. It's like he's been, I don't know, disheveled, growing a beard, and then just thought, I have the strength to attack them now and clean himself up. But there was a couple things that he said there that stood out to me. He kind of caught himself when he said that he wasn't able to persuade, and then he backpedaled there. I thought that was really interesting. It's like, should you be persuading?
Too stupid. We were too stupid. He's like, I was a great communicator over 30 years, but these rubes were too stupid to be convinced by my sweet, honey, sweet words. We're just
we
too
saw
dumb.
through the lies. We saw through the lies. And then he's like, I know this is nonpartisan, but like he's just been waiting to say all this and he makes it totally nonpartisan. But what really stands out to me the most here is another, applaud for independent media. He even said basically alternative media on the left and the right is a problem because you're right. They are more free to go at him and government and they're less chained. And you see that in his talk. He pointed out the lies that he did over and over. And I don't know how, but I actually forgot about that rooftop dining dinner, while he's throwing pastors in there and throwing more pastors behind bars than any other place. I cannot believe how narcissistic it is for him to have sat there and just been like, it's all them. It's not me. Wow.
Yeah. And he spent his entire career leading up to being the premier of Alberta advocating for civil liberties in other countries. But once it became his responsibility to protect civil liberties from the tyranny of the state, I mean, China uses public health all the time to infringe on the civil liberties of its citizens. They did it in Hong Kong, right? When they took over Hong Kong and cracked down on the protests there, they said it was, for public safety, that we have to stomp all over the rights of free people. And I'm sure even to this day, Jason Kenney himself cannot travel to China because of his advocacy for religious and ethnic minorities there.
Wow.
But it's real easy. It's real easy to complain about those issues from afar. It's real easy to point the finger from the safety of Canada. But it's when it's easy to be an advocate for civil liberties during the good times.
When there's no persecution. But to flip from, it's the reversal of Saul to Paul. It's like flip to go from the defender to the persecutor. I mean, I don't know what that is. Was it just not genuine? Was that just the card you wanted to play at the time? Or did something really happen to shift you and make you go down such a dark, evil path?
I think that he believes these things in theory, but in practice, he just couldn't pull it off. He couldn't do the hard things. And a lot of people can't do the hard things. And we saw this with the Christian churches during COVID, right? How many pastors knew that it was the right thing to be obedient to God above the state? But when the rubber met the road, when they were truly tested, they failed the test. And, Ezra asked one time at one of the church under fire screenings, he said, how many of them actually truly believed the things they were saying from the pulpit? I don't know. I mean, people fail. That's why there are great men in history that stand out and you remember them because they are so few and far between. And as it turns out, Jason Kenney was not one of those great men in history.
I just want to add one more thing to that because I did call certain pastors that I knew and was like, what the heck? Why aren't you speaking out? And the other factor there is they cower to their board. Their board members. So it's supposed to be the pastor that's the shepherd leading the flock, but in reality, it's more of a structured system for some, and it's the elders and the board members, and they have to all agree, which is a whole nother issue in itself.
Hopefully they'll come around to the righteous way of thinking next time around. I'm a Catholic, so we're firm believers in shame. Shame sets people right sometimes. So sometimes I call out the local parish priest by name at some of the church under fire screenings. Maybe it'll get back to him. I know what you did.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's the reason the Lord gave us shame. It's a bad feeling. You don't like it. Maybe next time you'll learn something. We should hit an ad break, and then we'll go on to green energy and how it doesn't work and it's bad. And if we move towards it, we're all going to die. Which is what I believe. Have you seen our new documentary, Church Under Fire, Canada's War on Christianity yet? Well, if you haven't, you have not missed your chance. The documentary details the trials and persecutions of the pastors and congregations who stood up to the lockdowns when COVID restrictions came to their churches. We have taken the documentary across the country to bring it to the people who lived the stories we tell inside of it. But we're not done yet. We've just added new showings in Alberta. To get details and showtimes, please go to churchunderfiremovie.com, but I'll give you a few right now. We've got a showing in Lethbridge on August 23rd, one in Red Deer on August 24th, Edmonton, August 25th, Mirror, Alberta, that's drive-in movie, August 26th, and Westlock, Alberta, August 27th. If you are someone or you know someone interested in hosting a Rebel screening of Church Under Fire, you can contact us. The information is at that same website, churchunderfiremovie.com. All right, churchunderfiremovie.com, and great exclusive merch for the movie. It's really nice. Like, it's really nice. You can find that at rebelnewsstore.com. You can use the coupon code Sheila10 or Drea10 to get 10% off your order, and it's free global shipping. So
I already got lots of compliments on my Galatians tee, so check that one out. But also check out the movie. It is great. I cried. I think I cried 5 times in it. So, but just seeing it all packaged together so beautifully. Well done, Sheila and Kian. Very good job.
Yeah, Kian did a really great job. I was just sort of the person doing the blah blah blah. Kian really turned it into a cinematic masterpiece. But the merch is gorgeous. It's, I think, I don't. Like, I know it's my movie, but it's some of the nicest merch we've ever done. And the hoodies come in new colors. Oh, that's a new one. I don't have that one.
I know. Yeah, that's exciting.
God,
do we have purple yet? We have burgundy. We have burgundy. It's great. That's an olive. Oh, you know, olive is good because you can still wear it in front of a green screen. That's great. I have to really consider my colors because I work in front of a green screen every day, and I love green. But sometimes I'm like, oh, did I just chroma key myself? Like, I have a tattoo that chroma keys. So if I hold my arm up in the green of my tattoo, you can like see through my arm. It's very creepy. Anyway, that olive looks great. Let's move ahead to... I was just going to say, I work in front of my lovely homeschool area.
Nice.
Which is good. Yeah.
Nice. Get them out of the government brainwashing factories. Let's go to the green energy portion of the show. We've got a video from, once again, Pierre Poilievre responding to another CBC reporter. CBC had a rough day yesterday. Oh, it couldn't happen to a nicer network. He's telling them that in addition to scrapping the carbon tax, he'll greenlight green projects, and he fires a shot at Deputy PM Chrystia Freeland, who suggested Canadians need to ride more bikes to reduce energy costs. I am a 45-minute round trip for a jug of milk, and that is not even to town. That's to the local convenience store up on the highway. So I'm not sure how a bike would, like, my milk would be sour by the time I got home.
They're gonna 15-minute city you soon.
Yeah, good luck. You can't keep me. You can't fence me. Anyways, let's show this clip.
She doesn't work for CBC, but I do. Carrie Campbell, thank you for taking my question. Prince Edward Islanders are still cleaning up from post-tropical storm Fiona, and now they've been told to prepare for another very active hurricane season this year. So if you axe the carbon tax, will you have another plan to try to reduce Canada's emissions? And if so, what is that plan?
The plan is to, instead of bringing up the cost of traditional energy that we need, let's bring down the cost of low-carbon alternatives that are promising for the future. Let's green-light green projects like tidal wave power that was proposed for Nova Scotia that would have brought clean, renewable power from the oceans onto the grid in Atlantic Canada. Let's speed up safe approval of nuclear power so that we can bring clean, green, emissions-free nuclear energy onto our grid. Let's incentivize and sign off on carbon capture and storage so that our energy sector can put the carbon right back in the ground where it came from. In other words, let's green-light green projects rather than trying to raise the cost of traditional energies that are still required. Look out at these roads here. These people need to drive vehicles. If you're coming into Charlottetown from Cavendish, you can't do it by transit. You can't do it by bicycle. You know, Chrystia Freeland came to PEI recently and said that everyone should just ride a bicycle if they're worried about $1.86 a liter gas prices. That's not realistic, and it does nothing for our environment. What we need is to lower the cost of carbon-free alternatives rather than raising the cost of the energy that Canadians still require. Thank you.
That whole question from the CBC reporter was prefaced on the idea that a carbon tax would have stopped Hurricane Fiona. We had a carbon tax. We literally had a carbon tax. We had a carbon tax when Hurricane Fiona hit the East Coast. So, what would repealing a carbon tax do? Is that like a force field around the country? If we keep raising, we just have to raise the carbon tax until the hurricanes are like, oh, that's enough. We'll go somewhere else now.
They mean business.
Yeah, like I think that's what the question is based on. I'm not sure, but it's really ridiculous to ask people to bike to work or a hurricane is going to get you. Like that's basically what CBC is saying here. And thank goodness Pierre Poilievre said, yeah, no. If green energy works and it's affordable and we don't have to subsidize it, perfect, fine, whatever.
Exactly.
But why are we also simultaneously disincentivizing people from using the cheap, reliable energy that we are so wealthy with right now?
And I really hope, this is off topic a little bit, but I'll bring it back. I hope his wife gives him back his glass.
I can't stand the Millhouse look.
But it just needs to match his IQ. I love that they come with him with these, horrible questions, but he doesn't just answer it in one way. He answers it, gives like 4 different examples so easily. You can tell it's not scripted. You can tell that he knows his stuff. And this is what I appreciate about it. Versus, someone like Trudeau who dances around the question, starts thanking his mom for no reason. You know what I mean? Like he actually has thought these things through and gives a common sense answer to it that they can try to call alt-right or something like that. But I think even the average person who is watching this is going, you know what, that kind of makes sense. And I feel sorry for those who listen to this, still don't get it, and then go, I need to ride a bike now because Chrystia Freeland said I could, while she's, getting driven around in her SUVs and, jetting off to the WEF.
Like you could hardly hear the question from the CBC reporter over the traffic in the background. And that didn't register with anybody that we still need cars. Like it didn't clue in. It's like we're standing in front of a gas station and the cars, the traffic is very busy. People tax still grab. Need vehicles to get around. Yeah, it's ultimately just a tax grab, and good for Pierre Poilievre for calling that out about making life more expensive for normal people who just need to drive back and forth to work. Let's go. He mentioned Freeland there. Freeland was in my neck of the woods, unfortunately, this week.
I'm sorry.
I think she's at a tourmaline site, and I've got things to say about that. So let's go to this video of Chrystia Freeland. Claims the race to build the global clean economy is the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution. Sounds like a great reset, but I'm reliably informed that is a conspiracy theory. Let's roll it.
Our economic plan is fiscally responsible, and it's working. And that's really important as we deliver major investments to build Canada's clean economy and create great middle-class careers for people here in the Peace Country, across Alberta, and from coast to coast to coast. The race to build the global clean economy is the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution, and it is an incredible opportunity for people here in Alberta. That's why our $120 billion clean economy plan was built with Alberta at its heart.
Yeah, I bet it was built with Alberta at its heart. She wants to phase us out. Like the whole point of the green reset is to get rid of Alberta's power within Confederation. We're getting a little too uppity. And so we have to get smacked down into our place. I'll let you, I was just making some notes about what I saw there. But you go ahead first.
I'm just saying she's speaking like a true trustee member of the WEF there, which she is, which is concerning enough. You know, she's just parroting out the agenda that we're seeing being pushed by these foreign bodies that have a lot to say about our country. And you're right, she is targeting Alberta with these fluffy words. But a big contrast, again, between how you see Pierre Poilievre respond to something. She's constantly checking her script back and forth, barely makes eye contact. It's like she's not even believing what's coming out of her mouth, if you ask me, when you look at it. But it's, it's just nonsense.
So that's not a great look for Tourmaline, by the way. Tourmaline, that's the oil and gas company where she is. And those few people who work for Tourmaline lined up like a hostage video, like it's a proof of life hostage video, touring around. See, that's where I work. That's where I go to work. That's where I work to bring you the oil to put in your SUV. And we're going to walk over here and I'm going to show you the people that your green energy policies are going to unemploy. They're going to go home to their crying wives and children after they get their layoff notices. Thanks to everything that you're doing. Let's go over here and meet the other guys you're going to lay off. And this is the stuff that we're going to shut down. Like, not a great look for Tourmaline as they stand there lined up in a proof of life hostage video. While this little gargoyle says that she's going to put everybody out of work. She's basically saying we have to transition to green. All of this here, this amazing work that you guys are doing here at Tourmaline with your, what is it? This is the Triassic Oil Project, if I am right about that, and I think I am. This modern marvel of engineering and energy efficiency, we're just going to shut it all down. We're going to do the green thing. Yeah. She's standing there saying, I'm going to unemploy all of you with our green energy policies. Like she can fancy it up with her like kindergarten teacher's talk, that thing that she does, and shake her little head like a bobblehead all day long. But ultimately she's saying the green transition means we're going to transition you people from 6-figure jobs today to the unemployment line. And she says it right to their faces. Tourmaline, not a great look.
Going for the heart of Alberta with a dagger and a smile on her face, literally.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Tourmaline, bad choice. I get it when the deputy prime minister wants to come to your site that the bigwigs, the fancy belt buckle guys in Calgary, they might say that you got to do this, but I hope that those people there were from head office in Calgary, and they were not the poor workers at the Tourmaline facility, because that is just undignified if it is what you did to them. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, at least you guys have some good leadership, better than Kenney as all this is going down. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if our premier actually met with Freeland while she was here. I think it might have been very briefly.
Would she have gotten another handshake that
a wet noodle handshake where she didn't want to hold his hand, so it was like
exactly. No, I don't blame her.
Good. Okay, I think we need to hit an ad break, then we'll quickly breeze through some China stuff, and then we'll talk about Maui.
We're facing an imminent threat. A planned blackout of all news content in Canada is coming to Facebook and Instagram, threatening to silence rebel news and those who depend on us for the other side of the story. The cause? Well, Justin Trudeau's new censorship law, Bill C-18, which demands social media companies pay news outlets for the news stories their users share on the platform. It's a shakedown and a desperate attempt to keep the mainstream media afloat. It seems the billions in taxpayer subsidies just aren't enough to keep the country's propagandists in business. But Meta, Facebook's parent company, has chosen to block Canadian news content rather than comply, Rebel News included. Many have already lost their ability to access our Facebook and Instagram pages. The blackout will soon affect every user in Canada. But fear not, we have had a plan to protect your access to our news content. we've partnered with Private Internet Access, PIA, a VPN provider dedicated to safeguarding digital privacy. For just $2 a month, you can maintain your access to our content across all your devices. And unlike other VPN providers, PIA does not store any user data as it's automatically deleted from their servers to avoid leaks and government subpoenas for information. Their servers are located in all 50 states, not the ones in communist China. You can visit piavpn.com/rebelnews and enjoy an exclusive 83% discount and 4 months free. Use it to bypass regional restrictions and stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world. And stick it to Trudeau's new censorship law. Safeguard freedom of speech and join us to combat Trudeau's censorship today at piavpn.com/rebelnews.
Can I just add that that's way cheaper than what I paid previously for a VPN? Like, I paid so much money. So 83% discount, like it really does with everything. If you get the exclusive offer, work out to $2 like a month. So do check that out. And we've got to stay informed. That's the most important thing. What kind of
8-year-old headshot is that, guys?
Who made
this graphic?
Look at David Menzies.
Yeah, and Ezra looks positively cherubic. He looks like a fat baby angel. None of us look like that anymore.
You're on fire today, Sheila, with your references. They're hilarious.
I'm concerned that we've been sucking the life out of David Menzies slowly but surely. Anyway, let's go on to this quick China stuff, and we'll touch on something that Brian Lilly reported, but I'll tell you why he shouldn't get accolades for this story, because anyway, I'll just get to that. I know these things because I pay attention to this stuff, and anyway, let's go to this video. Once again, Pierre Poilievre, very Poilievre heavy show, but he had a fire day yesterday, so you know, when they do good things, we applaud. When they don't, then, you know,
we'll Kenny him. If he doesn't, we will Kenny him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Just keep doing the right thing. And we're your biggest fans. And if you go the wrong way, just ask Jason Kenney how the alt-right media treated him.
Exactly.
Let's go to this clip of Pierre Poilievre slamming Justin Trudeau for his admiration of the basic Chinese communist dictatorship. That clip never gets old, does it? Let's listen.
I think it's outrageous that Justin Trudeau has done absolutely nothing to stand up for Canada against Beijing. Beijing interfered in 2 subsequent elections to help Trudeau win. They have police stations on Canadian soil targeting Canadian citizens. I just think it's incredible that he's done absolutely nothing to stop it. We're demanding an immediate public inquiry and a full registry to identify and expose anyone who works for a foreign dictatorship in a paid capacity to manipulate our politics. This is common sense. And I think it's just incredible. We have a prime minister who says he admires the basic Chinese communist dictatorship, who's allowing foreign police stations on our soil to intimidate our citizens. You want to talk about extremism? That's extreme. It's extreme to have a prime minister who would allow a foreign dictatorship to run police stations in our country to single out and target Canadian citizens with intimidation. That's not something that I will allow. We will bring home control of our democracy.
I don't know what I can add to that. And these Chinese police stations, by the way, I had no idea how easy they were to just get to. We had, again, I go back to the Democracy Fund Student Journalism Conference. Some kids did, like, because we give them an assignment, like, do a civil liberties journalism story with a written piece and a video and comment and different elements and stuff like that. These kids went to the Chinese police station. And one of the kids, and they're not kids, they're like young adults, but I mean, I'm in my 40s and they're younger than
they're kids.
They're younger than my kid. so they are kids to me. And one of the groups went to one of these Chinese police stations, and one of the girls, the young ladies, is a Chinese speaker. So she like read the signage on the door into the video, and I felt like I was on, like I had a very special secret tour guide to one of these Chinese police stations. And you can just go to them. Like, they're not even trying to hide them. It looks like an embassy office, quite frankly, like a consular office.
Wow.
Very official. Yeah, it's pretty freaky.
That's interesting. I remember when the story first broke, I did try to find the ones in Vancouver and I couldn't. And most of the ones around here, all the news articles couldn't too. But I'll take another look now, because it would be at the very least we can expose where these are, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's a fly in here. It's a fly season.
Oh, yeah. And it's a Mike Pence spy.
Yeah, I just wanted to land on my face and like crawl across my face as I'm talking, but they're on my lights and they're getting, one is on my light, one is on my computer screen. It's very annoying. Now, let's go to this Brian Lilly story. And this Brian Lilly story, it seems like an exclusive.
It seems like a good one, so I'm interested to see what you have to say about it.
So, this is true. Stephen Guilbeault, the environment minister, is he serves as an advisor to Beijing, and it's because he sits on something called the China Council. It's the China Council for International Cooperation on Environment and Development, and basically it's just this like council of the two countries. And they advise us on climate change issues and we advise them on climate change issues, which seems crazy. And he's working, literally this China Council is part of the Chinese government. We have an environment minister who is working for the Chinese government.
It's so concerning.
Okay, like I said, go ahead.
No, go on.
Okay.
Get it out.
But here's the thing. I know this file very well because, as you know, Catherine McKenna was my muse for a very long time. She inspired a lot of jokes from me and a lot of nicknames, and I thought that she was absolutely just a mental lightweight. I was going to use a different term. And I just thought she truly doesn't understand how the other half lives. And she was just a big fat hypocrite too. And so I love calling out the environmentalist policies because they never live the way they want you to live. No matter how many times she would photograph herself snowshoeing. And I was like, sister, shovel your sidewalks. Aren't you getting a ticket for that? I was like, this is a municipal bylaw infraction. You showing me yourself snowshoeing to work. Shovel your sidewalk, lady. Anyway, the thing is, this China Council, Rebel News broke this story back in 2018. So 5 years ago already, Catherine McKenna was co-chairing the agency set up by the Chinese Communist Party of Canada to promote China's interests, not ours. And even worse, it's not just bad enough that we have ministers of the crown working for the Chinese state in a CCP set-up organization, but Canadian taxpayers are paying $1.6 million a year to China.
Oh, no.
For the privilege of sitting on this council to help them meet their 5-year plans.
Oh, my gosh.
We
and they're
broke
doing
this
a horrible
story.
job. They're doing a horrible job because China is the worst, the biggest CO2 emission. This is like coupled with everything that Pierre Poilievre just pointed out. And then this, how is this happening? From the election interference, from the police stations to this, and we're paying to be on it. I did not know that part. So you're right. You did bring it home. And I don't think Lily put that in the article here. But I just want to also point out what Guilbeault says. He already sets up in his comment that he makes in this, that's quoted here. He sets up already like a shade over whoever might point out and critique him on this. He says, maybe some political opponents will try and attack me for traveling to China amid tensions between the two countries. So that's what he told National Observer. And he says, I am clearly a lightning rod for some of them. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I think Canadians in general will understand how important it is. We can't solve climate change. You can't solve the international biodiversity issue without working with countries like China. Okay, good luck. Let's see how good you do.
We can't solve it by working with China. Because according to the United Nations, China, so the world's second largest economy, sometimes it's the first, depending on how you measure it, with this incredible amount of fossil fuel driven industry. You know how they get away with not having to meet their climate targets? Because according to the United Nations and the people behind these massive green wealth transfers, they are classified as a developing nation. And so developing nations get a pass, and developed nations like us, we don't. So while we have this nation that absolutely dwarfs our economy in size and scope, we have to give them money and give them even more opportunity to develop their economies until, I guess, until such time as they completely take over the world. They are going to be completely unabated. And we, in the developed world, we are supposed to kneecap our economies to meet climate targets that the massive country of China, with its immense population, they will never have to comply with.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. But yeah, that would make sense on why they're using it that way. Everything, it's like, is everything a lie? Like, is my whole life a lie?
Yep.
Wait, remember the days, like, I don't know how long ago it was for you, but it wasn't that many years ago for me, where of course I didn't blindly trust the government or the news, but I thought most of the time it's the truth you're hearing. And now it just really seems like the complete opposite.
Yeah, I think as an Albertan, I'm a natural skeptic of the federal government generally. Like, you're percolated in that soup as a young person, right? Like I say in our movie Ungovernable, one of my earliest memories as like a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, is my parents sitting at the kitchen table being absolutely just head in hands stressed about money because old man Trudeau's policies about the National Energy Program were putting my dad out of work, and it was driving up interest rates. My family, even though we have the family farm, so that was fine, but farm equipment is very expensive, and my parents had just bought new farm equipment because things were going great, and then interest rates just went right up. There was no work for my dad, and it was just an absolute nightmare. That one of my very first memories, and my parents like wondering, what are we going to do? And it was through no fault of their own. Things were going good. They were, there was money to buy farm equipment, and then all of a sudden there wasn't, because the job that my dad had and had always had, it was just gone. It was just gone because they were treating Alberta like a colony of the rest of the country. And so as an Albertan, I guess that's a long way around. As an Albertan, you never trust the feds, and you don't trust the mainstream media, because you're like, no, actually the Trudeau families, they're doing a terrible job and we don't like them here. But then you're watching the CBC and they won't shut up about how great they are. And that is like from the time that you can consume the news, that's what you figure out, or at least that was like for me and like my little bubble of people I keep around me.
Well, I was born in Alberta, but then I must have got tainted moving over to BC.
Lower mainland.
Yeah.
Okay, we should hit a quick ad break, and then let's go to the truth about Maui, because we have 2 journalists on the ground in Maui, in and around the location of the wildfire there. And however, it has been very difficult for Alexa Lavoie and Lincoln Jay to get any footage out to us because the absolute destruction of the local infrastructure there where the fires have happened. So let's hit an ad break and then we'll go to that.
How in the world could such a small group of people with limited resources change world history? But in fact, that's happening, and it's the power of the truth. The truth is like kryptonite.
Healthcare isn't in some sense working very well. Foster Colson is thinking about this. He's got a new company, an online healthcare platform called the Wellness Company.
Telehealth company called the Wellness Company.
The Wellness Company.
The most popular product is the detoxification supplement that features nattokinase. Nattokinase is the only enzyme that we're aware of right now that dissolves the spike protein. Spike protein is loaded in the body with the COVID-19 infection and definitely with the vaccines. We've been completely accurate on the spread of the virus, early treatment, on the deficiencies in hospital care, and now the deaths that are occurring after vaccination. This is a human outrage, and it's occurring at the end of a hypodermic needle. Isn't it interesting? Natural substances combating this man-made disaster.
Our wellness company delivery came yesterday and quickly disappeared. I think it went directly into my husband's work bag. I don't think I'm ever going to see it again.
The elderberry vitamins, like I have to hide those from the kids because like they'll just like pop those things like crazy.
And I think my daughter has become an evangelist for the spike support because so many young athletes, and she's a young athlete, took the vaccine just so they could play. And now that their parents are like, are we going to have a died suddenly on our hands? And so, it's a scary thing for a lot of parents who, made this decision because they wanted their child to pursue the sport that they love. And they were forced into it by the likes of Jason Kenney, not the alt media. And so now they've got regret, and they need something that can help alleviate some of what they feel are the possible physical complications related to that decision. So
never again. Let's not forget what we let happen.
Yes. Okay, let's go on to, because we've got some chats we should get to, but it's the truth about Maui.com. We have sent Alexa Lavoie and Lincoln J to Maui. They're going to the town of Lahaina, and that's where the wildfires happened. And it's to investigate whether or not the fire itself was a result of climate change, because if you ask the mainstream media and Joe Biden, that's what they say it is. A wildfire is always climate change, even if people are charged with arson. That's what I continue to learn every wildfire season here in Alberta. But it seems as though this, and I should tell you, Hawaii is like a deep blue state, very Democrat. And it seems as though, and we'll get to this in a second, that some administrative decisions were made that may have made this much, much, much worse. But our team is on the ground there. They're doing their best to investigate. However, because the wildfire just ripped through this community, there's not a lot of infrastructure left. And it has been very difficult for them to send us video, even to send pictures and tweets. It's very difficult. They're looking at their phones and saying, like, how we have full bars, but there's really no access to the internet whatsoever. And so some of our reporting might be delayed on that, but please, friends at home, know that they are working very hard in some pretty untenable conditions to get facts from on the ground, and you can support their journalism at thetruthaboutmaui.com.
Yeah, and just in, it looks like we did manage to get a video out. So if you go there after this live stream, you'll be able to watch that and see what came up. But I'm looking at the thumbnail right now. It just looks devastating.
It's terrible.
So definitely worth the watch to see what they're up to. And I like that there's so many, theories going around and all of these things that could have started the fire. And so they're going to be graciously looking into some of those things too. And so who better to do it than Rebel News, have their boots on the ground. And also we're, of course, pointing out some of the charities that are there with their boots on the ground, helping people get back on their feet. I know Red Cross is one of them, and there is another. Again, that is all at thetruthaboutmaui.com.
Yeah, I think we've included the links to some of the local on-the-ground charities working to help people recover from this devastation. That's on the page, thetruthaboutmaui.com. So, it's just an absolute nightmare. Now, we've got a video, and this is one of the reasons we sent journalists there, is because, there's nothing that climate change can't do, apparently, according to the left. But did climate change do this? Not so sure. Head of Maui's Emergency Management Agency has zero regret for not activating the sirens during the deadly wildfire. What
zero
on
regret.
earth? People died. There's like 100 people dead. What do you mean you have no regret? I'm not sure what this man does, but I know for sure he's a Democrat. Let's roll this.
The sirens, as I had mentioned earlier, is used primarily for tsunamis, and that's the reason why many of them are found, almost all of them are found on the coastline. The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. In fact, on the website of the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, the firing guideline is provided. If you are in a low-lying area near the coastline, evacuate to high grounds, inland or vertically to the fourth floor and higher of a concrete building. Alerts may also come in the form of a wireless emergency alert. Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Malka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire. And so that is the reason why our protocol has been to use WEA and EAS. By the way, I should also note that there are no sirens Malka or on the mountainside where the fire was spreading down. So even if we sounded the siren, it would not have saved those people on the mountainside, Malka.
Well, I don't know. I get his reasoning. I get his reasoning. I'm not sure that's true, but I think alerting people to an emergency. Yeah, I think alerting people to an emergency probably would have been a good first step.
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing is that true? He said it's primarily used. So there's some room there. He didn't say it's always used for this purpose. He said primarily. So definitely it's worth looking into the new claims that he's coming out. And, you know, he seems very cold about it when he's delivering the stuff too. Like sort of he's just talking about like why they stopped a sale at Save on Foods or something. I don't know. But yeah, definitely looking into it. And, you know, it's also just pointing out that there should be a better system in place. And maybe worth looking into where you live right now to see what's exactly in place. Oh, sorry, my phone fell. If a fire was to break out.
I think Alberta's system's pretty great. We all get text messages to our phones.
Right.
We can, we know. And it's because we deal with these things all the time, every single year. It's not climate change. It's living in the boreal forest that does this. But also in southern Alberta, they deal with grass fires all the time. And those sparks can happen like that. It comes off the train tracks or some idiot throws a butt out the window and you can, it'll just tear through the prairie. And then again, I'm where the grassland just crashes into the boreal forest. So we deal with this stuff all the time. But something very interesting, and I saw this morning, Michael Schellenberger. So he has, he's great. If you are not following Michael Schellenberger's work, both on Twitter or whatever we're calling it now, X.
We are not calling it that.
I'm not. But also his articles, like he writes for the National Post sometimes, or he freelances for them. So anyways, Michael Schellenberger. Many say climate change caused the deadly fires in Hawaii, but it didn't. What caused the fires was Hawaiian Electric's failure to clear flammable grasses from around electric wires because its focus and ratepayer money was going to renewables. Oh, I believe this wholeheartedly. Between 2019 and 2022, and he brings receipts. Between 2019 and 2022, it invested less than $245,000. Oh, that's nothing. On wildfire-specific projects on the island. While there was concern for wildfire risk, politically the focus was on electricity generation. Looking back with hindsight, the business opportunities were on the generation side, and the utility was going out for bid with all these big renewable energy projects, he said. But in retrospect, it seems clear we weren't as focused on these fire risks as we should have been. You think? Same, and he points out this isn't the first time this happens in a Democrat-run state. Same thing happened in California. Governor Gavin Newsom, as I've heard him called before, pushed the utilities to spend billions on renewables and cut the budget for forest fire prevention. The result was more forest fires. When they were caught, they blamed climate change. Of course, because that justifies your ad spend on I guess it is a green ad spend on renewables. It justifies you shifting the money that way. And he said he's been debunking climate and fire disinformation for 3 years. The media know better, and they continue to lie about it. Why everything they say about California fires, including that climate change matters most, is wrong. In 2018, a fire ripped through the town of Paradise, California, killing 85 people. It was the deadliest, most destructive wildfire in the state's history. Liabilities from wildfires started by its power lines bankrupted Pacific PG&E, which cut off power to nearly 1 million homes and businesses last month to prevent wind from triggering and fanning fires. Anyways, it goes on and on. It's just, if you follow that thread on Twitter, and he just goes and just undoes all the lies and basically says, no, These companies should have been dealing with wildfire risk, clearing things in and around the lines. I don't know if it's like in BC, but like every year I've got the power company out trimming trees near the power lines and cutting everything back and clearing the ditches to make sure that we don't spark up. But they weren't doing that there. They were taking that money dedicated to maintenance and making them build solar panels and stuff like that. And now here we are.
Well, definitely sounds like a follow to a good follow to have. I'm not following him yet, so will do. But I feel like climate change is going to be the new COVID, where it's like just this blanket
excuse. The old COVID.
Use. Oh, well, it's the old COVID, but I mean, it's going to be to the point where it's like, oh, that's climate change. You can just sort of excuse away everything of that, any mistake that you do. Oh, there's not enough PPE in Canada for the healthcare workers. Oh, that's COVID's fault. No, you threw away millions of PPE and didn't, restock them. So it's the same kind of thing you're seeing here.
Yeah, and you know what else? Quit demonizing fossil fuels, because you cannot fight a forest fire without fossil fuels. You cannot evacuate people without fossil fuels, and you cannot rebuild these communities without fossil fuels. Let this be a lesson that comes from this, is that the move away from fossil fuels makes people far less safe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into some of these chats because we're way over. Snowy Roof gives us $5. Why isn't Guilbeault being charged with treason, being a Canadian elected official and working for our enemy CCP? According to the Canadian government, is the CCP our enemy? I would suggest not.
No. It's our most admired. It's our dictatorship in Canada. So,
I
think that also answers that question.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau doesn't think of them as our enemy, strategically, politically, anything like that. Even after they basically unleashed a virus on the world and lied about it.
Yeah, and let's not forget the two Michaels, what they did to them too. So.
Yeah, and what they do to their own people. I mean, the fact that we even have diplomatic relations with these people seems to be a little bit unjust. We should thank Cranky Blue Noser for becoming a monthly supporter. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. And Udabursi, again, I never know how to say it, gives us $5. Guilbeault might not return from China, may be locked up over there. Does he believe they are going to listen to him? Oh, they're going to listen to him. Are they going to take what he says to heart? No. Yeah, they're just going to be like, thanks, bearded Canadian. Goodbye. Thanks for the $1.6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to take him seriously. And I think that's it. We're all caught up.
Got it.
Yeah, I think as we were talking there, we showed scenes from Alexa's video from Lahaina. I think that was it. As we were talking, we showed that. And we've got one more chat from Vile Dong. Okay.
It's like they made the name. I think they made that name just so you would read it out loud.
You know what? I just read the names. Some of them send like affectionate messages to David Menzies just so that they can hear me struggle to read them. $10. Thanks for providing a vital service now that mainstream media doesn't provide news anymore, but sticks to manipulation and social engineering. Well, thank you very much. I always say that as long as the mainstream media remains terrible, and I'm confident that they will, I have job security forever. So, sometimes I don't necessarily cheer for them to right the ship. I cheer for their slow demise, which is more of a suicide. Anyway, I think that's it. I think we're all caught up. Thanks, Drea, for letting me talk too much, as I tend to do when it's not David Menzies on the show.
You had me laughing just as much as David Menzies on this one.
So thanks. At least my jokes weren't perverty.
Yes, this is true. No HR after the live stream.
I'm not sure who is HR at our company.
It's David Menzies.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh man. Thanks to everybody who works behind the scenes in Toronto and across the country to put the show together so that it's available for our people to watch whenever they feel like, or listen, because this show is also available as an audio podcast. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thanks to everybody who pitched in. Thanks to our new monthly subscriber. Appreciate you. Every little bit helps. I'm not sure who's hosting the show tomorrow. Might be me. Let it be a surprise to everybody, including me. You, me, everybody. Big surprise. We'll all find out tomorrow just before airtime. And as David Menzies always says, stay sane.
All right, guys, so Alexa Lavoie and I just touched down in San Francisco. We're just on a quick layover, and then we're headed to Maui. Now, I'm sure some of you are aware that there's been some devastating wildfires that just took place in the city of Lahaina, and it's completely devastated that city. I just want to say that my heart goes out to anybody that is dealing with this tragedy on the ground there. Whether you've lost your home, you've lost loved ones, I just want to let you know that I'm thinking about you guys and my heart goes out to you guys. Now, we've been recommended a couple charities to support. If you have any means, please consider donating to Maui Strong Relief. They're helping people on the ground get back on their feet. It's going to be a long road ahead. So Alexa Lavoie and I are heading down just to talk to locals, give them a voice, and see what really happened, and just let them share their story. So we're going to be down on the ground. Stay tuned for our coverage. If you want to check out all of our coverage, go to our website, thetruthaboutmaui.com. Now, like I said, please support the people on the ground, the people suffering this tragedy. At the same time, if you'd like to support our journalism and just to help us get by with our travel,